Hello everyone, welcome to RAAONLINE. I am Dr. Abhinaya. I am a consultant pediatrician. So in Nelson-based pediatric teaching, in the chapter discussion on infectious diseases, we are going to now discuss on syphilis. So let me start with a brief introduction. So syphilis is a chronic illness. It is a systemic sexually or it is a vertically transmitted infection. So in the picture what you see here are those tiny spiraled, very tightly spiraled organisms. These are nothing but the Treponema pallidum. So they belong to the Spirochaetaceae family. So these motile spirochetes, they have caused syphilis, they have caused yaws, pinta, bigel or known as endemic syphilis. So this Treponema pallidum can cause a wide variety of illnesses. Syphilis is the one which is known, which is occurring worldwide. Yaws, pinta, most of these yaws, pinta, bigel are mostly seen in Southern American regions and in the African countries. So these treponemal microorganisms, they stain very poorly. Okay, so in the conventional stains we will not be able to detect them. Rather, we can identify these organisms on dark field microscopy, on phase contrast microscopy or on immunofluorescence staining. So these syphilis, we have to study about two different types or two different presentations of syphilis. One is the congenital syphilis, another one is the acquired syphilis. So the acquired syphilis is primarily transmitted by sexual contact. So it can be either vaginal exposure, oral exposure or anal exposure. So predominantly it is the sexual contact, but it can be transmitted either by blood products or by direct contact with the infected tissue. Incubation period is quite long, that is 3 weeks. It can be maximum even up to 3 months. Congenital syphilis is by the transplacental transmission. When the pregnant woman is infected, it results in transplacental transmission, or if the mother has active genital lesions, the baby can be infected, can get the infection during the intrapartum period or during the delivery. So there are various stages of infection of syphilis, I will tell you in a while. But if the mother is in the primary syphilis or in the secondary syphilis stage, she is more likely to transmit the infection rather than the latent infection. So once the infection is transmitted transplacentally, either the child fetus gets infected, it causes intrauterine death, or it can cause a stillbirth or hydrops fetalis or preterm birth or IUGR. Once after delivery, the newborn can get early symptoms. That is, early symptoms means in the first 2 years the symptoms can occur, that is called the early symptoms, and more than 2 years it is called as the late symptoms. So most patients with syphilis, they stay asymptomatic for years. Okay, I'll show you the algorithm. Yeah. So these are the stages of syphilis. So once the patient is infected, so this is about acquired syphilis I'll talk about first. So once the patient gets the infection, primary syphilis means they will have only the chancre and the regional lymphadenopathy. Okay, so this is the primary syphilis. Next comes the secondary syphilis, where there are systemic symptoms are occurring. After the primary and secondary stages, patients go in for this latent phase. Okay, so there are two phases: early latent phase which lasts for 2 years and late latent phase which can last for years together. Even say it is written as 46 years. In the first 1 or 2 years, if the symptoms are latent, no symptoms shown by the patient, it is called as an early latent phase. Then late latent can be there for years together, the patient can remain asymptomatic. Once again, there can be a recurrence of the disease or an active disease can occur, that is called as a tertiary disease. So this tertiary syphilis predominantly occurs as 3 forms: neurosyphilis, cardiovascular syphilis and only syphilis gammas, granulomas alone can be there. During any of these stages, there can be reactivation or relapse and can cause a neurosyphilis early also. Okay, doesn't mean that the neurosyphilis will occur only at a very late stage, but there can be an early neurosyphilis also when there is a relapse. Okay, for all patients need not go in for the latent phase. Some patients can go for a quick relapse also. So these are about the stages of syphilis. So syphilis infection is occurred, primary syphilis, secondary syphilis. then patients go in for a latency period, and then there is a reactivation of disease which is called as a tertiary syphilis. Coming to the congenital phase, congenital syphilis occurred transplacentally or occurred during the peripartum or the intrapartum period. Early syphilis, early congenital syphilis means within the first 2 years. Late congenital syphilis means after 2 years. Okay. So predominantly patients are infectious during the primary and the secondary stage. As you can see here, infectious stages here. Tertiary syphilis and in the late latency period, they are not infectious. Okay. And each phase will have a time limit. As you can see here, to develop the primary lesion, it takes around that incubation period, that is 3 weeks to maximum 3 months. From primary to secondary stage, it can take around 2 weeks to 6 months. Okay, primary is only a chancre. To develop systemic symptoms, it can take up to 6 months also, and then they enter into this latency phase. Okay, just remember this flow chart.